It's draft night. It's draft.
Welcome to First Class Fantasy. I'm Theo Greminger.
Actually,
is this First Class Fantasy? This is technically like a Dominator First Class Fantasy. Like
how about we're dominating on First Class Fantasy? Problem solved.
So,
we're good.
Last night I drafted a press coverage main event with Nelson Sousa. Today I did a
shout out Nelson
Goat District main event that's going to be airing, I believe, tomorrow. There's so much programming. And now I'm back with Billy Muzio, and we did something interesting here. We got the 12th pick, and we've done this a lot. This is not our first rodeo, and we're going to go unique. We're going to go with how about them Cowboys? Stack.
The boys.
We're stacking. So
the boys are going with the boys.
Turn it off. If you don't like stacks, turn this off, because this is a stack show now. We've established our Dallas Cowboys RB1, wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard. We're going to make a bet on the Dallas Cowboys. And Billy, we might have to sneak in some Detroit Lions and go stacky for that Week 17 game.
It'd be a Week 17 championship. We got to get there first in this one.
Absolutely.
Should we show the board, or should we make them look at our mugs for at least another 5 minutes?
Well, I'd like some feedback from the chat. Does everybody like my background? This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm in Studio B. Since it's 10:15 on the East Coast, my wife has relegated me to downstairs. So let's put the board on. They don't want to look at us.
I think we take a vote first. Everybody in the chat who's here, if you like the background, give Theo a shout out. If you don't like the background, let's call him Ron Burgundy or something. Let's get some feedback on the background. I like the background, Theo. The blue matches your eyes. It looks good.
It's very bright behind me. It's like an LED player profiler. It's like the alternate one, so I'm into it.
I like the color, man. It looks good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So we'll stick with it. We'll workshop it. Appreciate that. Naughty in the chat. That's my boy. He's active in the chats. He says love the background. Justin Boyd likes it. Love it, guys. Shout out to Don F. Shout out to Derry Doug. We've got a lot of Ball is Life. I mean, we got a lot of people. Evil Knievel. The chat is lit. This is draft season. You've been watching all summer long here in the Roto Underworld. You've been grinding. You're watching Billy and I draft a 350 FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship. So, we want you to win your leagues this year. We're into it. I think we put out a ton of great stuff this summer, and hopefully we're going to cash some tickets. I know Billy and I have a really, really big draft right after that Thursday night game at the FFPC.
Doing the 5K, buddy. Theo says that I can't drink, but guess what? I'm drinking.
Well, we've established this, okay? Billy is Italian, and in France and Italy and Portugal and Greece and parts of Europe, wine is a food.
Yes,
so we are going to have the wine. He's not allowed to have hard liquor before that high stakes draft, but you're allowed to have wine, Billy. It's almost like you got to have something.
It's like if you don't feed me wine, it's like you're pretty much like handicapping me inside of a draft room.
That's right.
Like my home league. So I've done the 3-peat in the home league, Theo, and here in Bend, Oregon home league. I have 2 home leagues, but the Bend, Oregon home league, I've done the 3-peat. This year I'm going for the 4-peat. And one of the guys suggested, hey, we should make Billy drink a bottle of wine before he can even draft his round 1 pick. And one of my best friends in town, Jason Stewie, turns around and says, that is a horrible idea, because Billy usually doesn't start drinking until he has a bottle of wine. And at this point now, you were just like lining him up for success with the bottle of wine.
Well, it's interesting, Billy. The bottle of wine is aggressive. I don't know if I'm down with the bottle of wine before the draft, but I'll say, we got some a hater in the chat in one of the YouTube's comments I noticed, and he was saying that you're sitting there drinking a bunch of Merlot. I think he referred to it as stripper Merlot. Can you please for the people at home define like Billy's like a Northern California guy, so it's got to be something from NorCal.
This is an Oakville Cabernet. It's just not a Merlot.
Okay, so it's a Cabernet. He's not a Merlot guy. Just on the record.
The only time I drink Merlot is when it's in Bordeaux. I do not drink Merlot straight.
Okay,
very rarely.
Billy, what part of California is the best wine? Like where is your go-to stretch?
I love Oakville. I like a lot of Napa Valley, but Oakville in particular. There's Russian River I really like as well, but like Oakville, for instance, you get a lot of like bell pepper and like flavors to the wine. I'm a big wino. Like I could sit here and talk all night about wine. I should just start a wine podcast, honestly.
No one wants to listen to you do a wine podcast. They want to listen to you do a fantasy football podcast. So I'll say, just to get after it, like we've seen the big three quarterbacks go off the board now. For us, this is great because, Billy, we have the ability to go Dak Prescott with this build. We could go Dak and Jared Goff, get that free look, double tap.
That's right.
We're wide open with what we can do. We also, when we get to the
Dak goes late in these, like round 11.
There's no rhyme or reason to like kind of when the once you get to the back end of the QB1s, there's like no rhyme or reason for when it starts. It's also weird, like Trevor Lawrence. Some drafts I'm seeing him get pushed way up. I saw him go in the 5th round of a main event tonight, and I saw him go to the late 7th of a main event I did last night. So, you're seeing Trevor Lawrence go around. I think people are having trouble evaluating the current prices for Anthony Richardson and a couple of these, high-end QB2s, low-end QB1s. So super interesting. Like Billy, when we did our main, we got Daniel Jones super late. So, it's very interesting. But I think the fact that we took Pollard, we feel like no pressure to get a running back here at 36, 37. But I will say the Patriots have gotten rid of everybody. And
there's only 2 running backs on the roster. I finished the projections today. They're updated on the site. Like, I spent 6 hours today going through every single depth chart on every single team. And there were some like really eye-opening cuts. Like the Patriots having 2 running backs is a big surprise. I don't expect it to stay that way, but for the time being, there's only Ezekiel Elliott and Rhamondre Stevenson. The other team that was really shocking with 2 running backs was the Lions. They only kept Jahmyr Gibbs and they only kept David Montgomery. And then you look at some wide receiver positions and like, wow, look at like what the Colts did. The Colts, up until about 2:00 today, Pacific time, only had 3 receivers on the roster. They had Downs, Alec Pierce, and Pittman, and then they re-added McKenzie after they put Jelani Woods to IR. But there were some surprise teams if you look at like the depth at the positional spots.
Yeah, it's very weird. Some of these teams going fragile, and the Patriots, made me a little sad that they got rid of Malik Cunningham. I took the time on Sonic Truth podcast to talk about how Malik Cunningham was going to be a thing for potentially Taysom Hill, and Bill Belichick was not about that. So, we react to it, but I will say, like, Rhamondre, like, he a bunch of bullets dodged. Like, the temptation for Pierre Strong, the temptation for Kevin Harris, the completely annoying temptation for Ty Montgomery touches, those are gone. It's Zeke Elliott and Rhamondre Stevenson. It's kind of like the Pollard Zeke situation last year, except Ramondre's the man there. So, like, I feel like Rhamondre is now back to being a guy I'm considering at the end of the 3rd round when he's there. And again, you don't see like these drafters adjusting to like the cuts. So, like, I think people are getting a little bit weird with their builds.
Yeah, people. I don't know. It happens every year. I mean, we're going to see things change.
Billy, I have 3 guys in our queue, though. We're 2 picks away. I have 3 guys in our queue: Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, Christian Watson.
Love them all. Yeah.
And then I'll throw your guy Deebo Samuel in this mix. And if there's anybody else you want to consider,
let's see who gets here. I mean, I think we'll get at least one of these guys, but we have to. There's only 2 play people ahead of us, but we took Waller at the last one. I'm fine taking him again, but let's see. We have right now Lamb Pollard build. There are 42 of these so far in the tournament. That's not that many based upon the 12,000 plus entries that there have been. So this is actually not bad for the 1-2. We'll see if we can get unique here on the 3-4 turn, which would be awesome, but not always required. We can always get unique a little bit later. But I always like to try to be, ETN gets fired up. So that goes 3 running backs heavy. So I always like to try to get unique here at the 3-4 turn, but it doesn't have to happen, Theo, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many of these drafts at this point that it's like, we'll get, again, there's a lot of time to get unique. And Billy, there's also time to get unique on the waiver wire.
Yep.
And how far do you want to dive into this stack is the thing. Like, now that we have a Lamb Pollard, do you feel more inclined to add a Brandon Cooks and kind of go for it?
I don't think we have to. I mean, it's redraft. It's not best ball, so it's not as important. I mean, stacking is always important. Every single one of the players you have in the queue are there. I think Keenan Allen pretty easily is one.
Keenan Allen's a smash. And then, I mean, we just took $2,000 worth of Darren Waller. I hate hate passing up Waller here. Christian Watson's also enticing, but I'm okay going with Waller. I think they're both clear values to me.
Yeah, let me check my ownership in fantasy in the Fantasy Pros competition real quick.
Sure.
I actually under own Waller inside of this tournament.
Just take Waller. I took him last night with Nelson. I took him with you last week. I'm going to take him here.
Okay. Who's the other player that we were considering if we don't take him? Watson?
Watson would be my, number 2 here.
Okay.
I think the potential of a Watson, Lamb, and Keenan Allen.
I mean, we take Waller, we can punt the position from here on out now. I kind of like Waller.
Good point. Yeah, and I think this might be a goofy draft based on how great these options were. So
I have him in the queue. Okay, if we auto. 1 second. I'm punching in Allen. How much time do we got?
Got 9 seconds, Billy.
All right, go ahead and lock it.
Okay, there we go. So if you're listening on a podcast, our team right now, we started out with the Dallas Cowboys stack, Ceedee Lamb and Tony Pollard. Then we followed up with Keenan Allen and Darren Waller. We took Darren Waller over Christian Watson and Deebo Samuel. We're very balanced. We have 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 2 wide receivers. This is, of course, FFPC tight end premium scoring. So Darren Waller could be a league winner. And based on our build, Billy, I think we've got 2 15-plus point per game wide receiver scorers. We have a 15-point per game plus running back scorer. And we have, with the tight end premium, a 15-plus point per game tight end scorer. And I also think these guys are going to get fast starts. So I like this team.
So there's only one team in the tournament out of the 42 that were there that have these 4. Watson would have made us unique, but I'm fine going Waller here. There is a question here, which I'm actually going to look up right now. And
first of all, Derry Doug is calling you out, Billy, saying you're a fake 49ers fan because you're standing in front of Montana and the legends, and you take a Dallas Cowboys stack. The disrespect.
Yes, if we're in the 90s, yes, but the 2000 Dallas Cowboy team doesn't deserve the respect that the 90s Dallas team did. Okay, the question is, of those 42, how many completed the Dak stack? So let me take Waller. I'm going to take Waller out of this equation. I'm going to take Keenan Allen out of the equation. And I'm going to punch in Dak. 14 have the Dak stack too. So it at least slims it down. And if we punch in Waller and we punch in Allen and then punch back in Dak, how many have that one? 0. So we're good.
Yeah. We're going to be fine. And I also don't mind, again, the double tap. Like, I feel like for us, we've punted quarterback. We've also taken, the middle Danny Dimes type. Tonight I took Jalen. Actually, no, we took Patrick Mahomes tonight out of the one hole. I'm comfortable anywhere with the quarterback positions now. I feel like there's values all over the place, and I'm comfortable building my team. It's like a number of ways. So with Dak, we can wait, Billy, but it's kind of weird because like his value, like where do you feel like we're guaranteed to get Dak? And I feel like the 10th round if you really, really, really want to lock it, but I don't know.
It would be round 10 the way back if you really want to take him. Round 11 would be hoping he comes back to you. And then round 12 would be like the latest you'd ever want to take him. But I think we lock him in round 10 on the way back or the 9-12. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
On that turn.
I think you have to. You don't want somebody to snipe you.
Jelly of the Month says he's got a 12 spot on Labor Day. I'm taking notes here.
Well, Jelly of the Month, we've started out a bunch of different ways from the 12 hole. We've talked about this on like First Class Fantasy a lot. Like there's different ways you can build out this 12 hole. Billy and I love Saquon Barkley. He could be there. Tony Pollard, obviously, we like. I think we're both Barkley ahead of Tony Pollard. But that being said, we had a chance to get the stack. For a 12-team league, I'm definitely taking Barkley over Pollard. And then you can also start wide receiver, depending on your scoring settings and also your positional requirements. Like I have a main event where I started out A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love that team. You can do that. You can take Garrett Wilson. And then sometimes these guys like CeeDee Lamb fall. And then, you could take Bijan Robinson if you want to have that unknown upside. So I think, Billy, is there any other combinations you've done at the 12 you just love?
Got lucky, got Stephon Diggs there once. Yep. I absolutely love that team, but that doesn't happen very often. I think consistently you can get Nick Chubb there. Chubb, Barkley I really like. Two of my top 5 running backs. You can get pretty different at the 12 hole. You can go running back heavy and then hammer wide receiver. You can go wide receiver, and continue that build out, and then take running backs in rounds 5, 6, and 7. So there's so many different ways that you can build this year just from any hole, but the 12 hole in particular, you can really hone in and get 2 RB1s, 2 wide receiver ones. Depending upon how many drafts you're doing, you probably want to mix and match from the 12 hole, and you don't want to go one way. But if I was doing just one of these, I would probably go wide receiver, and probably a third receiver in round 3. And then if Waller's there, I'm taking Waller, and then I'm probably started tackling running back in rounds 5 and 6, because there's some really good running backs this year, rounds 5, 6, 7, even round 8.
And I do think Billy's got a good point on that. And I think that, we got Keenan Allen there at the end of the 3rd. I think that's uncommon. I've seen him go as high as the 302 recently. And then Christian Watson has been kind of like a fallback. I have a Watson, plenty of Watson and Deebo Samuel in that range right there. But that's not always guaranteed. He's got a wide range, and some of these, especially when you get to, Vegas and these late drafts, I think there's people that say I just have to have Christian Watson. So I think you might see some 309, 310. So I don't know. There's different ways to build your team. Billy, I think wide receiver, or running back, wide receiver. But we put together a running back start the other night with Barkley and Pollard. And you could do that too from the 12. So I just think basically the 12 is it's awesome. There's plenty of players that could really pop from there.
It's my favorite draft spot this year.
It's great.
I mean, you can't go wrong there, honestly. I even like the players I get in rounds 3 and 4 every time. Most of the time, rounds 5 and 6. I mean, I just feel like when you're in the 1 hole or the 2 hole, I feel like the board gets picked over by the time it gets to you. And then you're almost forced to take a quarterback there, like Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, because you just see everybody go right before you're up. And in this board, Devontae Smith fell to the 3-5, which is nice for him. But typically it gets dried up there, and you just feel like quarterback is the edge in the beginning, where I don't really love taking quarterbacks early, but this year more so than ever, I've been taking him in round 3, but it's always when I'm in the front, 3, 4, 5 spots.
So now this is interesting. You're going to have a annoyed manager because the team in the 407 says that they got auto picked for Jonathan Taylor and he wanted Christian Watson, but the team right behind him went ahead and took him right away. So this is always interesting when FFPC says you can't take that guy. Once in a while you get a pushback if these guys haven't done too much of these.
Yeah, I mean, you auto draft and the player's taken, he's off the board. You can't do anything about it.
I heard just a horror story of a guy auto drafted Kyler Murray in I think it was the 7th round, and he came around the wrap to his 3 picks later, and he couldn't get it overturned. So it's always some crazy stories with these. Just when you're splitting with somebody, it's great because if one of us gets logged off, the other one's here.
Yeah.
Live drafts, you never have any issues either, Billy. Those are always fun.
I love the live drafts. I love being in Vegas. It's like a holiday for me.
You know what it is? It's like, if you've never done it, it's amazing. It's like being from a small foreign country and not seeing people, from your country all year. And then you get to a place and there's 2,000 people from your country. And it's like a big celebration where it's all these people you've interacted with, playing online against. Some people you've gotten to be friendly with over the years, whether they're league mates of yours or, DMing in Twitter. And then some people you just know from Vegas where you're, excited to see this guy in draft against him again. There's a lot of familiar faces, a lot of great people with the FFPC. And, I love getting a chance to see Dan Williamson, Billy Muzio. I'll see Chris Vaccaro out there this year. I'll see, tons of people. Andrew Schellenberg, Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. Abib Agbatoba, I don't think is going to be there this year. Or is he going to be there?
I'm not sure if Abib's going to be there.
I gotta ask him. But a lot of the people, from Player Profiler and our programming partners will all be drafting in these high stakes drafts out there. So there's nobody else bringing you content with this many people at these live drafts. We definitely have skin in the game. We're definitely trying to win a lot of money this year.
So you get there Wednesday as well, right?
I get there Wednesday, and I am drafting in the super bracket online. And then 1 hour later, I'm doing a live NFFC draft. Then I go the next morning. I have a draft with Dan and Andrew Schellenberg. We are in the varsity. Nice. And we won money last year, but we missed winning it all. So we let it roll, and we're doing it again. We're running it back. And then I draft with the whole GOAT district in a main event. And then we enjoy maybe an hour of relaxation. Then we watch the game, and then me and you draft.
Nice.
So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I get there Wednesday. I got 5K Wednesday night. I'm drafting that one with Adam.
Nice.
And then Thursday, you and I have a 5K.
Time out, Billy. You and Adam are going head-to-head in which one, though?
Friday afternoon. So we are going head-to-head.
That's an odd dynamic.
It is an odd dynamic. He even told me if I wanted to just draft the team so we weren't tipping hats, but I'm fine with it. I've drafted against Adam enough to where he knows who I like and who I don't like.
I run into this dilemma with Nelson Sousa because we have a big team that we split actually this Friday night. And I think we might be head-to-head in a 6 o'clock draft like 2 hours before. So
yeah, it happens. I mean, when you do the volume that we do, and you're in enough drafts to where you're playing with the guys that you're competing with, you're playing against the guys you're competing with, it's bound to happen. My biggest thing is just waiver wires, right? And I'm doing X amount of drafts versus you, especially if I'm in 2 5Ks against you. I don't really like to share 5Ks with the person you normally, because if they see who I'm picking up on waivers, they know I'm going to be picking that person up in that league probably as well. So I got a few things up my sleeve for the year, so that don't tip the hat too much with the players I'm playing with. But and also like Dave and I don't draft against each other at all. Like if I'm in a draft room, he leaves. If he's in a draft room, I leave. If we're solo, it's just one of those things. It's negative EV to draft against your drafting partner. It really is, And
I completely agree. Try to avoid whenever possible.
Yeah.
Just looking at this board, this is going to be a weird one, Billy. You see James Conner going at the 501. That's probably a 3-day high for him. Mm-hmm. In these Fantasy Pros championships. I don't have Fantasy Mojo out. I'm just guessing on that one. And then you see Justin Fields go. So that first half of the board is going to be kind of weird. And then you have the team who took Jonathan Taylor, and then in the chat they said, who do you want to change your pick to? And he went back and forth and didn't say anybody, and now he's got the pick.
So he did say go ahead and resume, but he wanted Watson. Watson went, so he said, F it, just leave Taylor in there.
Well, that's odd. I would say, there's a lot of other players besides Christian Watson, because I've saw Jonathan Taylor. Nelson and I fell on that grenade last night. We couldn't resist it. We hoped that it was $1 million grenade, and somehow everything gets worked out, and we have RB1 production down the stretch. We took him to the 703. I see him tonight went like 710 in a main. I think he's got resistance at like the 801, 802. I don't think that the drafters there are going to let him get by. So I think he's going to be living in that 7th round. Probably 2/3 of the time he goes in the 7th, and then I think he goes in the 8th once in a while. That's just how I predict it's going to go.
Yeah, I fell on a grenade on JT at the 3-9 with a Tyreek Hill and Amon-Ra St. Brown start. And I was like, it was before the news, and I said, hey, if this gets worked out, and now I have an RB1 with these 2 running wide receivers, this team's going to be pretty hard to beat. And now I look at it in reverse and say, now I got these 2 receivers and I don't have a running back. Because I pushed running back.
Shout out to Andrew Geller, the Guilds, who I split a main event with Andrew Schellenberg. And Guilds is a very good drafter, but he could not resist. He was taking Taylor right and left in a bunch of these leagues, and now he's back at it. He took him in the 8th, I think, in a main tonight.
Look at Rachaad White get fired up.
Yeah, look at the running backs. James Conner, Pierce has been going a little bit higher, but that's still a little bit high. And then Rachaad White gets fired up right there. So
there's so many receivers that I like that you can't get here normally.
Well, DeAndre Hopkins would be an auto pick.
Yeah, don't say anything, Theo. Don't jinx it.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
like
we're doing
Rule 101. We're live, dude.
Yeah, I can't say I'm used to what I did with Nelson in the GOAT District when we pre-recorded. Okay, we're not going to
live, dude.
Let's fill the
Theo over here just showing everybody his cards.
I know. Sorry, I hate that guy. That guy sucks.
He got hurt today, didn't he?
Yeah, I heard he got hurt. It's only going to miss 8 games.
Here's a question from Jose in the meantime. Any thoughts about early tight end builds in this format? Do you like 2 tight end builds, Theo?
So, in theory, I don't like. I think that if you could get the correct Mandrews Waller team, I could live with it. But they never seem to work out, Billy. Like over the years, they never seem to work out. You basically have to. If I take the bully tight end, I feel like I'm trying to thread the needle. And I'm trying.
Do you like to punt running back then and go receiver as well, and then just try to hit on an RB2 later, or which direction do you usually go when you do this?
When I bully tight end, I'm usually in some kind of a 0 RB type build, and I look at that guy as, essentially the equivalent to a wide receiver 2. Like I have one team with a Waller Pitts, but we got Pitts pretty late, and that was about as bully as I can get. But you're talking about 3rd round and 6th round. So it's a little bit different. But I think like in years past, you would see a couple of those Mandrews Kelsey teams.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Kelsey smashed, but Mandrews had a disappointing season. And those teams were not doing great. You also had a couple of years back where Darren Waller got steamed up to the 1st round and didn't return value. And you had a bunch of Waller Mandrews teams that didn't work out. So I don't know. I think bully tight end could work. But you'd have to run hot right in the right few weeks, and you also would have to do some good things to catch up at wide receiver, quarterback, running back, whatever position you're kind of punting. So, Billy,
we're on deck.
Q, are you looking at our Q too?
Yeah, that's the 2 guys I was going to suggest, but he just took one.
Well, we have one, so let's think about pick 2. I would like to get James Cook. Yeah, I think he stands out as an edge pick. And I don't mind pushing up Jahan Dotson or a George Pickens here. We feel a little less pressure at that player, being a week-to-week smash, but I think that Jahan Dotson and George Pickens are going to have a bunch of like big games that are really going to help us. Where are you at on this pick?
I took Jahan last night, and I took him with you the night before, 2 nights ago. I'm thinking I kind of want to push up. I kind of want to push up David Montgomery here because he's not coming back.
Well, let's put in James Cook. I don't know about that. I mean, I get it. I get the idea. The idea is, you're going to have correlation to the Week 17 game, and I think Montgomery.
They also only kept him and Gibbs, so it's a very clear backfield. He moved up pretty significantly in my projections today in the update. And if he gets the receiving work that he got even remotely close in Chicago, we're talking about a top 20 back, top 18 back maybe in this offense line.
You're opposed to Pickens here at the 601?
Yeah, I don't really want Pickens here.
Okay, so forget Pickens. I do think Dotson gives us a little bit more of an edge, but I don't mind going with Montgomery if you have conviction on it. I just worry about the next run not having the wide receivers we want.
Let's gamble on receiver. We see running back being pushed up this board.
So let's take David Montgomery and have a unique, and we also get correlation with that Week 17 game.
I'm really high on Montgomery this year. Like I own so much of him. Not a lot in this format, but a lot in the main, a lot in the best ball tournament. them only keeping 2 backs says a lot to me. It's the same thing with New England. We talked about Rhamondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. Like both those guys by default get a slight bump in projections just because there's nobody else to give it to. Like I still put placeholders there because you can't project 90% of the workload to go to 2 guys. It's just not realistic. So you have to put some placeholders there, but you don't like to put placeholders above 10%. So it's usually 8%, 9%. And so even if you give a placeholder of 8 to 9% with this backfield between Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery with the math comes in as a top 20 back. And so I'm all for Monty season. They paid him a lot of money. And I think that the gap is honestly going to be closer than people are willing to admit between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Well, I think that for me, I like, I'm a huge Gibbs guy.
Hold up real quick.
And Gibbs obviously has the incredible receiving upside.
He said they brought him Bam, but he's in the practice squad, not the active roster.
Yeah, and I think Bam Knight being there is a win for David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, Bam,
it's not active roster. That's a big difference.
Yeah,
he's still there. I get it, but there's a lot of other guys there that are there on the practice squad. Active roster, 2 backs.
Shout out to Toronto Dave. He's here for Monty season.
It's real, man. It's going to happen.
I'm
on the Monty train this year.
Where, he's a 7th rounder for me in a bunch of these. So
I get it, but those days are. I mean, you can still get him at the beginning of round 7 if you get lucky in drafts.
Oh no,
now.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with David Montgomery.
I'm going to fire him up, especially in the 5Ks and 10Ks. Like, I'm just going to get my guys.
Well, we're gonna get our guys in the 5K. This is why we gotta keep Billy from from enjoying him too much in Vegas. He's just gonna yell out a name.
I'm gonna
go
put the sticker up myself.
We've got to be like the serious, head-to-head talking conferencing drafter, not the enthusiastic drafter.
Look at Kittle falling in this draft.
Kittle's fallen. The Debo and Brandon Ayuk love, and the Kittle people are just not as stoked to take them.
Turf Toe Terry goes there.
Turf Toe Terry.
He has a ring, doesn't it?
It's great, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, McLaurin, I saw him go in the 7th of a main last night. So, there's some apprehension, but, he's definitely got resistance. People are not going to let him slip past, the 705, I think, is, the lowest we'll ever see him.
This year, more so than ever, players go all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of it is because of the quarterbacks, and they've been kind of pushed up the board. But even just players like James Cook, I've seen him go 5-1. I've seen him go at the end of round 6. David Montgomery, I mean, we just took him because I made you pretty much, but we just took him at the 6-1. And we see beginning of drafts, we saw him in round 8. Round 7 is in the beginning, round 7 is pretty common right now. End of round 6 is pretty common. But quarterback in particular, I've seen Watson go anywhere from round 6, 7 to round 9, 10. And players are just all over the place this year.
And also Watson, it's kind of funny because the gap between Watson and Lawrence keeps extending, but then sometimes that gap between Watson and the following quarterback can be long.
Yeah.
But then I've also seen some drafts where Tua goes ahead of Watson now. And a lot of it is if you get Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and you want to force that correlation. Shout out to Ryan C. Is there a clock at live drafts in Vegas? Yes,
there is.
They keep it moving. And it's definitely, it feels like a real draft.
If you don't pick, the next person can pick.
And shout out to Jay Wimmers. Agreed. The variance has made for a fun draft season. I agree.
Yeah,
and it's very difficult for us to predict which draft slot is going to be the main event winner this year. I think that you can build your teams very well from different slots. And once in a while, you're disappointed by your slot. And then you love the way your team looks at the end. So I agree. I think that people are reacting to information a lot this year. We're getting a lot more information, and it's made for a very fun, very interesting draft season. It's wild that we're almost here, Billy. I feel like we've been doing this for so long.
That'd be kind of a cool thing to do. Like you could pick only one spot and you can submit one bet and you have to pick where the winning main event or the winning
I think
fantasy,
that should be a thing.
that should
FFPC
be a thing.
could take wagers on that, and you just pick where that's you have a 1 in 12 chance.
Yep.
And then you could have like certain spots juiced up.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. 1912. Are you guys staying all together in Vegas? Billy and I are in the same hotel. We're staying in the Cosmopolitan.
I wanted to build bunk beds.
Highly recommended. Billy's never been. Separate rooms. You know, we're friends, but we're not that friendly on that in that regard. We're gonna have a little separation. And Billy and I are gonna kick it. We're gonna come. You come say what's up to us. We're gonna be in the Cosmo if you want to see us there. We're gonna be in the Planet Hollywood. We're gonna be over at the MGM Park drafting a team together. We're gonna be all over the place. And come say what's up to us if you're in Vegas. You know, we love it. We love the FFPC. We love being at these live drafts. And again, it's like you get to see these people you haven't seen in so long. And Billy, how fired up are you about staying at the Cosmo? I'm so stoked for it.
Yeah, it's a nice place. I mean, we initially had a 2-bedroom suite somewhere else. Plans got derailed with some news, and so we adjusted on the fly. Theo had a hookup at the Cosmo. He got us a nice little discount and rate, and I am pretty excited about it. My room looks nice. I spent up a little bit.
Got a nice view, Billy. Looking out the window, you get the strip, you know?
Got the strip. I got a little balcony in mine. I paid up a little bit more for the balcony. I got us because I know that we're going to be doing waivers and probably maybe even recording. So I got us a room with a nice conference table. So we got plenty of space to sprawl out. And, you know, there's going to be so much room for activities, Theo, that, you know, we're just pretty much going to be rock and rolling like this. We're going to be building bunk beds.
Pretty much it.
This is
that's
worst
pretty much it.
pixel. This is like the worst picture I could have possibly picked on the internet. Like, why is it so distorted?
I don't know. It's like you took a piece of like saran wrap and put it in front of your phone and then took the picture.
But that's pretty much us in Vegas, but in HD.
So yes, there's a lot of great places to eat in the Cosmo. And
yeah, you were sending me some menus. It looked pretty good.
Good stuff, man. It's good stuff. We're gonna be having a blast. And we will be at the FFPC for the Chiefs Lions game. That's always a blast. You see everybody there. FFPC crushes it.
Look at this comment. I haven't looked at the breakfast yet. This is hilarious.
Oh yes, egg slut. But the problem with that is, Billy, so it's egg slut is these egg sandwiches. And when you're like a morning person in Vegas, like no one's out. So like I know this because I'll draft. I think I have a 9 a.m. draft, and I definitely do. I do a 9 a.m. draft on Thursday, and then a 10 a.m. draft on Friday. And like, you know, I'm East Coast based, so I have kids, so I wake up early, so I'm like up and at 'em. And no place has a line in Vegas except for Egg Slut. In the morning at Planet Hollywood, or excuse me, at Cosmo, the line for Egg Slut to get one of these egg sandwiches is so fucking long. Excuse my language.
What's the secret sauce? I mean, what's on it?
I didn't get one last year because the lines are too long and I'm getting to my drafts. But maybe this year we're gonna have to get one. People freak out about these sandwiches. They're these just breakfast sandwiches. And they're like the best ones in Vegas. And it's not like a restaurant. It's like a quick serve. And people stand in line and the line wraps around like 100 people long. It's crazy.
No, it does not. Does it really? Dude, this looks so good.
It's incredible. We'll get it at some point. I feel like,
oh my God.
Yeah, like it's big time. It's big time.
If they got it on a brioche bun?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, there's like, this looks delicious. I mean, I'm not waiting 100 deep, but
well, you time it out. You time it out.
Is it always 100 deep or does it?
No, there's levels to this. I'm sure that you walk by and there might be like 20 people in line, but the basic takeaway is like early morning in these casinos, any place that's open, you walk up, you just get whatever. And then the line gets crazy. The only two places in Vegas where the line gets really crazy early in the morning is Starbucks or whatever coffee place they have. And Egg Slut.
It looks really good.
And when you're in the world traveling around, whether you're in America or another country, and you see people standing in line for food, It's always a good bet that the food is good.
It's got like steak on it as well. It looks so good.
Yeah, this is it. We got to get one.
Oh my god!
So we are here about to pick again. There's still a number of really intriguing players in this queue. I'd like to recover at wide receiver.
Yeah, we definitely need a double tap receiver here.
I'm intrigued by Jordan Addison right here. I like Courtland Sutton right here.
Courtland Sutton, Sky Moore. There's three that I like here a lot.
Where are you at on Hollywood Brown?
I mean, the team's going to be bad, but they're going to have to throw a lot. If he can stay healthy, he's probably going to see a lot of targets.
So I think this is probably Jordan Addison, Courtland Sutton, not Sky Moore.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't own a lot of Marquise Brown. It's going to be hard to, man, I just don't trust him this year.
So it's fine. And instead of betting on a bad offense and a guy needing to be peppered with targets, we bet on a very good offense and a, middle of the road, but somewat promising offense.
I have Marquise Brown higher in the projections though than I do with Jordan Addison.
So
at this point we need to kind of gamble at receiver and take some upside shots. I'm fine going Marquise Brown here and Courtland Sutton because if Marquise Brown,
the upside player is Addison.
Well, we both agree on Sutton, so let's lock in Sutton.
Lock in Sutton.
Let's talk through Marquise Brown. Let's talk through Jordan Addison. We can both agree we like the offense way more inside of Minnesota. That being said, Addison will probably start off as the 3, maybe the 2 right away, but he's going to be always behind Justin Jefferson, where Marquise Brown is pretty clearly the number 1. Rondale Moore hasn't been able to stay healthy. Their offensive line is bad as well, so they're not going to be able to run the ball the whole time. They're going to be playing from behind and throwing the ball more. I probably lean Brown here.
I'm fine with Brown. Is there a player that we're overlooking? I'm looking through the queue.
Probably Sky Moore. He's the every down receiver now inside of Kansas City.
I feel like we went with somewhat safe. I don't know, man. I think that the Hollywood Brown pick stands out. I don't have any of him. Let's take Hollywood.
Okay. I like Hollywood more than Addison. I like Sky more than Addison.
So Hollywood's path is Brandon Cooks 2021. Brandon Cooks 2021 was going in this range of the draft. He was the clear wide receiver 1, and he hit big time. He was getting peppered with targets. You saw this again last year with Amari Cooper, where nobody wanted to draft Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's we're banking on an offense being bad and them throwing the ball a lot is what we're doing right here. It's the safe play might have been Sky Moore because it's the best offense. They're throwing the ball top 3 amount of times in the league. Sky Moore is probably the every down receiver inside of the Kansas City Chiefs, alongside probably MVS, who's just going to be the field stretcher. But Sky Moore has the most upside of that receiving core. But he's going to be the number 2 in comparison to Travis Kelce as the downfall, where Marquise Brown is arguably the number 1 in that offense every given week, and they're throwing the ball because they suck and they're behind. It's an interesting dilemma, honestly. It's like you could sit here and talk about hours between like these 4 players.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all have decent ranges of outcomes. I've drafted a lot of Sky Moore. I certainly don't have a lot of Hollywood Brown, so I like it.
I don't own a lot of Hollywood Brown either. On a team that we're kind of behind the receiver, though, I kind of like the upside shot because if he outperforms, projections, then it's a win. I kind of feel like we probably should have taken Sky Moore, though. I just feel like, but Sky Moore, you can get him so much later. I understand the thought process, but I think that it's probably the correct play if we want to play it safe.
Yeah.
Dobbs starting week 1, or do you think?
I don't mind the build.
I mean, I like the team. I don't mind it.
Me too. I don't mind. I'm saying I don't mind the build with Hollywood because, again, you're betting on, like, if we start out week 1, we have 4 wide receiver 1s on their own team. You don't know how the game flow is going to go. I mean, Hollywood Brown might get 12 targets week 1.
Yeah, we don't. So the beauty about this too is we get the free look with David Montgomery, and so we don't even necessarily need to play Marquise Brown. Right. So David Montgomery has a big game, then we can insert him in, and then as the running back, and then we put James Cook in over Marquise Brown, and we start Sutton. So it's the free look is going to change things a little bit with David Montgomery for at least week 1. It gives us a chance to kind of analyze the Arizona situation for a week.
Shout out to JD from the GOAT District, who is on the clock at the 8:08, deciding between those two.
$8.08 makes me feel less enthusiastic about it at the 8:01. Thanks, JD, for pouring salt in the wound.
Yeah, thanks a lot, JD.
Asshole, JD, get out of here, buddy.
Yeah, seriously. So JD is actually a big-time poker player, and JD's going to get in some poker when in Vegas too.
Nice. Is JD coming to Vegas? I didn't see him last year.
JD is coming to Vegas. Yeah.
Hey.
We won a main event from winning Pros versus Joes last year with GOAT District. And JD, we're going to split that one together. And then JD's also doing a couple drafts with Dan.
Nice. They're letting Canadians in Vegas now, huh?
I petitioned the U.S. government. I said, what are we doing? But they didn't listen to me. They're letting them in. Shout out to Toronto Dave and JD in the chat.
Oh, man.
I feel like this background is making me freeze a little bit every now and then. I
thought it was just because your wife banished you to the basement.
Yeah, she definitely did. Studio A, shout out Studio A, has the better Wi-Fi. I'm down here trying to be quiet at 11:07 at night on the East Coast.
She's like, be gone, Theo. Go down there to the dungeons.
Well, she is fast asleep.
So she wouldn't even know if you moved up there.
No, well, I'm a little loud when I'm on the pods and stuff. So we're doing some work in the house. So I'm gonna eventually have like kind of an office that we'll share, and I'll be able to podcast from there. So that's going to be my plan. So there'll be Studio C at some point, and Studio C is where I'm going to broadcast from.
So we built up this bad boy. This is technically the basement, but it's we're in a mountain home, so it's a bunch of tandems, right? It's like a bunch of half layers is how they build these mountain houses based upon where the hills are at. And my old office was right below my daughter's bedroom. And so I'd be on podcasts and like we'd get someone to fell to us and I'd shout like, yes, let's go. And like, of course, it'd wake my daughter up. I'm super excited. We're in a main event draft and someone just fell to us. And of course, I'm fired up. And so my wife would text me like, you're being too loud. I'm on the podcast, right? And so we built this thing out, and now I can be as loud as I want down here. Got the door closed. It's all insulated now. It's two levels below my daughter's room. Like I could bump jams and draft. It doesn't matter.
Dude, you're living the dream. You're living the dream. Shout out to Kyle's Money. Shout out to 1912. 1912. I am not a Jets fan. I like when the Jets win because I live on Long Island and I have a lot of Jets fans, friends. But I'm more of a Garrett Wilson fan than anything.
So we were in a draft, Dave and I were, and somebody said Garrett Wilson's going to have 180 targets. I do not think that's possible. What do you think, Theo?
Well, I highly recommend everybody listen to the prediction show, Bold Predictions on Man versus Machine today. Dario and I podcasted, and I don't think that that's the path. I think he'll get very well targeted, Billy. He's a target earner, and we saw him have, a historically good target total last year for a rookie. But I think that this year, Garrett Wilson gets his big number with his touchdown catches. I think that he's going to have – you have had Jordy Nelson hit 13-plus touchdowns, I think 3 or 4 times. Devontae Adams had an 18 touchdown catch season and a 13 touchdown catch season, and I think a 12. And I think my bold prediction was Garrett Wilson catches 14 touchdown passes. He has a massive year, and he catches 14 of them.
I could see that path.
Yeah,
that's far more likely than 180 targets.
1912. I am somewhat of a neutral for my NFL teams these days. My favorite team is my fantasy team.
You don't have a single team? Like, you have to have a team.
So I grew up kind of a somewhat divided because we have some family that are Oakland Raiders fans from back in the day. That's I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I was a Washington Redskins fan as well growing up. So it was like but when you get kind of more and more into this, I'll tell you the time my fandom starts fading is when you decide to watch Red Zone instead of your particular team. And I think that was like the downfall. And once you do that, you're kind of broken. And I've just kind of kept going with it. And now it's like, if Washington or Las Vegas wins, like that's cool. I'm happy. But I'm not like I'm not like living and dying with the wins and losses, but I am absolutely living and dying with the wins and losses with my fantasy teams. Like I feel those ones.
Actually, Washington and Vegas, if they win, you said, or lose.
I'm not like I'm not going to like jump on a bandwagon if either one of them makes a run and claim like I've been there forever,
But if you like gun to the head, you're picking Washington or Vegas as your teams. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you're fucking watching Red Zone.
You find yourself,
suck.
Well, I find myself, and then also that I've another team that's has not been so good, but like 1912 is right. Like I do find myself rooting for the Jets just because I'm in Jets country. The Jets, I go to the games sometimes because I have access to tickets, and it's fun. It's a fun place to go to a game. I like going to MetLife, and I guess that's the local team I would root for. I can't root for the Giants because growing up that was like the rival to the Redskins. Now the Commanders. So I guess I'm kind of a neutral, which is sad, and I guess people can kind of make fun of that. I know you're a big 49ers guy, but those three teams I kind of will root for a little bit, but my team's my fantasy team, Billy.
So I'm of course a Niners fan. I watch Red Zone every Sunday, and then I start watching the rewinds as soon as they're out, and I watch every single game. The Niner game is the only one that I watch the entire version. Like I record the game, I watch the entire thing, or I just go back and if I don't, sometimes like there's no space because my wife has all of her like Desperate Housewives and whatever all those other reality TV shows are, and so I don't dare like delete one of those to record like a football game. So I go back and I just say watch the full version back on the San Francisco game. But I just something about. I don't know, man. I'm old school. Just like fast forwarding through the commercials, watching the whole thing, getting all the announcers, hearing everything. Something with the Niners, man. I do it with my team. But I love Red Zone.
That's the other thing is like I write the waiver wire article, so I watch Red Zone, and then when I want to write about a guy, I can go watch the entire game in a condensed 25 to 30 minute version. Billy. So that also kind of breaks me with this. So
okay,
Billy,
hold up. We're on the clock. They took one of the three guys I was thinking. Dak Prescott's probably one of these guys for sure.
Well, Dalton Kincaid was the one I wanted. He got sniped.
Yep, I was gonna take Dalton Kincaid with you.
Okay, that would have been an emotional moment for me, and I would have loved it, but we didn't get it. So, Billy, I'll say this: I love Treylon.
He's in the. We're good. We're on the same page.
I'll just throw out one name for you. I'll throw out one name because if we're trying to add a incredibly upside wide receiver pick,
yeah.
Quentin Johnston's interesting because if we ever had like actually we already have Keenan, so let's not do it. Let's do Treylon and Dak.
I can mute you in here. So
no, let's do Treylon and Dak is late.
Theo's muted because he mentioned that we would take Quentin Johnston. So we're going to take Dak Prescott, and then we're going to take Treylon Burks, and then we'll unmute Theo since he recommended Quentin Johnston on a Roto Underworld podcast.
It was galaxy braining it, guys. Treylon Burks this is the great.
I did mute you that whole time, just so you know.
Well, Billy, I will say that the Treylon Burks pick here kind of balances out our Hollywood Brown pick. So we took the seatbelt off and we punched it to 90.
I like it. I would have hated it if it was Quentin Johnston. He's
the only argument with Quentin Johnston is on some of these catch up at wide receiver teams. He does have the contingent upside. The only problem is we'd be betting against ourselves with Keenan Allen. But if I don't have any exposure to the Chargers, I've dove into Quentin Johnston. I've also have Quentin Johnston on some Herbert builds. Again, I think he's going to have some useful weeks, and I hope it's not because Keenan Allen goes down, but Mike Williams has also missed some time, and there's also a chance that he just sees more of a role towards the end of the season. I think that Chargers team also is a chance of leading the NFL in touchdown passes. I think they're gonna pass for a ton of touchdowns, and a ton of yards. That was one of my predictions also today on Man versus Machine with Dario.
So I am not high tonight, Theo. I even talked to Theo about this before the podcast. I said, my eyes are bloodshot. It looks like I've just smoked a blunt. I did not smoke a blunt. We have fires all around us in Oregon right now. Like, my house is filled with smoke. The entire town is filled with smoke. It's unhealthy air quality outside. I wish the redness in my eyes right now was from, some beautiful ganja, but it's not. It's definitely from the Oregon fires, and the wine's probably not helping either.
Oh, it sucks, man. We hope everybody in Oregon's all right. We had storms in Florida last night. But Andrew Schellenberg of the Goat District is all right. I double checked. It was the other coast.
Coast to coast.
Really. We had the Canada fires. Were crushing Long Island earlier this actually late in the spring, early summer, and it was wild. The sky looked like orange. It was like super weird.
That's like every single night in the summertime in Oregon. Like, at least in August, like, you see the sunset and it's just all orange. It looks like it's on everything on fire. Like, there's times in Oregon in the summertime, like 3 years ago, you couldn't even see across the street. It was so smoky. That's how thick it was, because like the entire mountain was on fire. Towns were burning down. Like, it was one of the worst fires that I've seen of my lifetime. And
yeah,
the smoke was so bad that, like, clothes in my closet, like, you had to wash them before you wore them again because they were so smoky. Like, if you wanted to go outside that day, if you didn't, like, sometimes it didn't even matter because it's so smoky. Like, you're going to smell like smoke anyways. But like, when the smoke finally cleared, like, I had to wash all of my clothes.
Yeah,
because everything just smelled like smoke. The entire house smelled like smoke.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You never want to see that, especially with all the fires that have been in California and stuff. So this podcast took like a really sad turn, Billy, with the air quality conversation. We were like so like happy, and now thanks, Billy.
Well, we could be happy about getting Treylon Burks as wide receiver 48.
You had to explain away the red eyes, so that was good.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't even care if I have red eyes.
Yeah. So the team, if you're listening on a podcast, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Keenan Allen, Darren Waller. Then we double tapped running back, James Cook, David Montgomery, Courtland Sutton, Hollywood Brown, Dak Prescott, Treylon Burks. And Billy checked. We are the only CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, James Cook, David Montgomery, Courtland Sutton, Hollywood Brown, Dak Prescott, Treylon Burks team in the entire tournament.
You want me to tell you how many degrees separation we have? I can tell you.
Go for it.
No, the tool reset. I'm not going to do it, actually. That's a lot of picks in there. We were unique at the 4 or 5 turn.
Shout out to the chat. The chat wants to know where I live in Long Island. I'm Nassau County. I'm Roslyn in Nassau County. So now you know. And you know who's coming to Long Island, Billy?
Dario
Offstein.
Nice. In the van?
Fantasy Football Across America is going to be a new podcast we have. It's going to be very cool. Dario Offstein, our director of analytics, who does a lot behind the scenes. He does Dynasty rankings with me. He does stats and projections and rankings with Billy. He also does Man versus Machine. Really, really sharp guy. He's going to go to 32 NFL games this year. He's going to go across the country, and it's tremendous. And Dario's a young guy, and he's traveling in a van, and he's podcasting in the van, and he's going. Fantasy Football Across America is going to be super cool, though. He's going to meet up with a number of us from Player Profiler and also a bunch of like well-known fantasy analysts across the country. He is going to go see the Podfather Matt Kelly in Connecticut. Then he's going to come and see me in New York. He's going to see Matty Kiwoom. And he's going to see, I think, Jason Allwine, the host of Wake and Take. Dario's going to pass through Atlanta at some point. He's going to get on Wake and Take with Jason. So he's doing like a ton of cool stuff. It's a very cool project. There's going to be a lot of video content from it on Instagram and I'm sure TikTok. And then he'll have the podcast and a lot of stuff here on YouTube and Twitter. So we wish Dario nothing but the best. It's a very ambitious project, and I think he's going to crush it. It's going to be really cool.
Do you think Dario makes it to all 32 stadiums, or do you think he gets arrested parking at the park?
I think that the podcasting from in the wrong park is always, you park your van in a park. It's not always the best thing, but I think he'll make the all 32. I think he's and shout out to 1912. Dario does in fact live in a van down by the river. Absolutely.
Oh god.
And shout out to
I can just see it now. We get an email. I'm not going to be able to record this week, guys. I'm being arrested right now because I parked at the park.
Well, we had shout out to, I'll just give a shout out to my Long Island people, sick_508. She grew up in Lindenhurst, and Jay Wimmers is from Amityville, Massapequa, which is, not too far from me. Neither one of these guys are too far from me. So that's awesome. But I'll say Dario, you got to be careful where you're podcasting from. Definitely be careful in that van.
Have you seen the meme with like the women's shoes for sale painted on the van?
They assume Dario's an undercover cop, I think.
Yeah. Oh god. I hope Dario's listening.
Dario's probably driving right now, Billy.
No, he's probably asleep in the van. That guy sleeps like 14 hours a day.
Yeah, that is true.
No, he's probably finishing the code for the projections and the not projections, sorry, for the data migration. We finished all of the projections today. He hopped on, reviewed the work, cleaned up some things with me, and then he got them all loaded to the site today. So all the projections that you see on the site right now are up to the date. Jonathan Taylor news, all of the cuts, all of the re-signings, all active rosters, all the projections are up to date. I'm going to be updating the cheat sheet tonight as soon as this draft is over. I'm going to go over there and update that for the news, and then you guys will be good to go for your drafts for the next couple of days, and then I'll get that updated again before the weekend.
And I have updated rankings, cheat sheet rankings too, which is put a lot of time into those, and I hope they're helpful to people. Billy's going to do it all year round, and he crushes with the rankings. He's got the receipts to prove it. So definitely stick with us on, your weekly projections and your start-sit decisions. We got you covered.
Well, we're about to be on the clock here, Theo, but real quick, before we get to our pick, let's go ahead and get a quick word from one of our sponsors.
Hey, it's the Podfather of great news. The 2023 draft kit is live. It is world famous. Why? Because it is the best resource for winning fantasy football championships that exists. There are rankings and cheat sheets for every format you can imagine. We have projections both at the team level and the player level. And wherever you are, you can click on a player, open them up, and see in-depth written analysis about what to expect in fantasy football from that player this year. And then you can click on the team, and you can get even more in-depth analysis, all the drivers of fantasy production, both in a positive and negative direction for that team, including a signature trend. And the graphics are incredible. So these team insights, they give you the team level projections, the vacated targets, the vacated ARs, and that one dynamic for each team that you need to know when making decisions on draft day. And we added a bunch of features. I mean, individual cheat sheets for Theo and Billy and Dario. So you could take your favorite analyst and download their personal draft cheat sheet. And then in the commissioners section, also brand new this year, Memphis Young lays out everything you need to know to manage a league, do's, don'ts, tips, and what the more innovative fantasy commissioners are doing this year. That's presented by Trophy Smack. The whole package is presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship, the FFPC, Ray Garvin, Derek Brown, the best minds in the industry contributing analysis. It's certainly not the most inexpensive draft kit on the market, but it is the best. PlayerProfiler.com/draftkit. PlayerProfiler.com/draftkit. Go get it.
We timed that one out pretty good there, but he took one of our guys.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, I didn't like see going there, but wishful thinking to get him there. I think it's Tyjae Spears.
I like Spears as one. Who's the other one we're thinking?
That I'm open to. I think that the one player that stands out to me is Luke Musgrave.
Okay,
because I think he offers us upside at the tight end 2 spot.
And we don't have to rely on him early with Waller. Okay.
Yeah, at all.
So
we might never have to start him.
So Spears is locked. I'm going to move the board down so people can see. Just to make sure we're not missing anybody here.
I mean, there's plenty of options. But I do think Musgrave, like getting a strong tight end 2 allows us to kind of ignore it for the rest of the draft. Except Jake Ferguson is also a consideration if he falls.
Yeah, I have Everett higher in the rankings than Musgrave, but I think Musgrave has a higher ceiling with that offense.
I think we know what Everett is. He's yeah.
How do you feel about A-Chain? I'm going to throw a curveball. A-Chain?
I'll always take A-Chain. And A-Chain does open us up to Ferguson. I'm okay with it. A-Chain's, I think, the higher, like, if we're going for the overall title, A-Chain, like, smashing towards the end of the season, I think would be more helpful than, and I think we could punt tight end completely and just take Bellinger in the last round.
I took your boy Musgrave. We took 2 earlier running backs. Now we can forget the position. I like the original thought, and then we can start loading up on some backups.
But I would have been okay with that build with A-Chain too. But I think that the only tight end that I would want to consider is if Ferguson's there, or on the next wrap. But I think he'll be gone.
Yeah, and now like the news with Jelani Woods going to IR, that removes a late tight end option, and there's a lot more uncertainty. Like, I think there is some uncertainty with Luke Musgrave regardless, but I think that there's more uncertainty if we were to push a position or push it to the next round.
Yeah. And it's always funny when you do these live drafts. I feel like you have more people watching in the first 10 rounds, obviously, than the second 10 rounds. But I feel like for me, Billy, this is always like where I can tell the teams I like, because I think a lot of times people are able to really nail, like JD and Dan and I talked about it on Goat District. Like, I love when I walk away from like rounds 10 through 15 with like really, really good value. Mm-hmm. And I love what we did with Dak Burks. I love what we did with Tyjae Spears, Musgrave. Like, those were really, really good picks.
Yeah, the top 10 rounds are pretty, not necessarily chalky, but you can pretty much slice and dice it how you want. Grab the players that you really want yourselves. Where these rounds 10 through 20, in my opinion, are where drafts are won. You look back a few years ago, and Deebo Samuel was going as late as round 11 in times, and he was a league winner.
Yeah,
you get times where running backs are going undrafted, or rounds 18, 19, 20. And then next thing you know, like this is a Tyler Algier, statement. Next thing you know, they're steamed up and they're starting and they have 1,000 rushing yards. And so you can always find players who are going to be inserted into your flex or even your starting roster, the positions themselves, if they have a strong camp and a strong start to the season. And or maybe the dominoes just fall just right and there's injuries. So this is what we look for these late drafts is players that have upside, players that are on good offenses, or players that maybe just have a large amount of opportunity share. And so that's why, Theo mentioned Luke Musgraves. There's no other tight end he's really competing with. He's completely dominated all the competition there. And he's going to insert himself as a tight end 1, where we talked about potentially taking A-Chain, who gets picked the very next pick. And A-Chain, of course, is playing right now behind Mostert and Wilson, but both those guys have injury concerns, and they went out and drafted A-Chain. And A-Chain, we know, has the receiving capability of being just an elite talent inside the NFL level and has that speed as well. And so we're looking for these upside shots. Someone asked last night on a podcast with Dave and I, what do we look for in late round picks? And that's it. It's high upside plays. It's opportunity share. It's talent. These things always shine through inside of drafts and inside the NFL. And maybe the talent takes a little bit longer to develop, but if they have the opportunity, they're going to be able to at least, give their talent a chance to shine and put up the fantasy points.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Billy, with talent. Like, we're taking players with high draft capital. Treylon Burks is a first-round pick from last year. Tyjae Spears goes in round 3 and Luke Musgrave goes in round 2. We're not throwing darts here. These are guys that these NFL teams want to see being very successful. And in the case of Musgrave, the Packers really need him. In the case of Spears and Burks, I would think that Spears has a chance to get exciting weekly touches even without a Derrick Henry injury, because they just don't have the horses on that offense. So I agree with you and Dave. I think it's a very simple thing, but I think sometimes people really outsmart themselves. I think a lot of times in these drafts, people overvalue getting QB2. Yeah. And I think people oftentimes overvalue getting tight end 3. And, running back wise, I think that this build, Billy, where we have Cook and Montgomery, it kind of allows us to kind of be very fragile at running back, because I think our top 3 running backs are like locked in.
Yeah.
So Spears is a luxury pick. I mean, if Derrick Henry has 1,750 career rushes plus, if he misses some time, Spears is an auto start for us, despite having these strong guys at running back and wide receiver. Like, I think he would ball out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What do you typically like to do at receiver? I'm like a 6 receiver max kind of guy typically in these drafts, unless I push the position and went something crazy like double tight end, early running back, whatever it is. Then maybe I'm taking 7, max 8. But what is your philosophy typically with wide receivers in this format?
I don't want to cap myself at a number. I think that sometimes if I have like conviction in one of these later wide receivers, I will take them. But usually when I have like this, like an FFPC, I think that 6 is okay. 7, I feel better. And I've seen teams that are like a 5 wide receiver build do okay. That makes me kind of uncomfortable. So I'm somewhat neutral, Billy, for this one. I do think that like overloading the position is a mistake, because you can put tight ends and running backs in your flexes here. And with the tight end premium, sometimes those tight ends become, very viable there. So if I feel like the wide receiver is the most dangerous pick, though, I would rather take like a Michael Wilson, potentially a Jalen Hyatt or a Jaden Reed, over some of these running backs that I don't think really have a path, even if my build is wide receiver heavy. So I didn't give you a clear answer. So it's really, I don't have a set number.
That was a politician answer. You dodged the whole question.
I don't have a set number. I would say that my favorite teams probably end up with like 7 wide receivers on the roster.
Yeah, I think it depends on the 7, of course, too. Like, if you're starting like the 3 or the 5 hole, like you don't need 7 probably, right? That's a 6 wide receiver build. Or if you're even in a 9 hole, like that guy probably doesn't need 7.
Yeah, and again, like,
although he did take Jackson Smith in the jig bus, so maybe he does need 7.
Yeah, that team there. Let's see how many he's at. I don't. His wide receiver build is pretty strong, but yeah, like you said, Billy, he's got to get through that. That 1 week where Jackson Smith and Jigga will give him 1 week off, and then he's gonna come back and smash. And Billy's gonna be paying me that $350. Billy's actually off camera begging me, offered me $700 just to get out of the bet, and wants me to stop talking about it.
Theo's lagging so bad I can't even tell when he's talking. I just gotta hear his voice. You're like the Wizard of Oz right now, dude. Like,
I don't know why I'm lagging so much. We had a crystal clear connection for the Goat District one, but that was in Studio A. So down here, I'm getting the bad vibes. But the team is running pure, Billy.
The team is running pretty good. I like it. So right now we got 4 running backs. Yep, we got Tony Pollard, James Cook, David Montgomery, Tajay Spears. We're running naked Dak, right?
What's that?
We're running naked Dak. Are you good naked Dak?
I'm trying to see if there's any.
I'm good naked Dak.
I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely fine.
We're gonna run naked Dak, so 1 quarterback. We got 2 tight ends. We got Darren Waller and we got Luke Musgrave, and then we have 5 receivers right now: Ceedee Lamb, Keenan Allen, Courtland Sutton, Marquise Brown, and Traylon Burks for all the audio listeners. And so more than likely we'll need to add at least 1, maybe 2 receivers. We'll see how the board falls. But we definitely got to start painting this board a little bit more green as well.
Don F is saying, what do we think of Michael Mayer? I've taken Michael Mayer. I think he's an interesting one in like the back end. And there's been reports that his receiving ability is incredibly strong and the team loves it and they want him to improve as a blocker. I certainly would. That's certainly what we want to hear about in fantasy is that they like him as a receiver. I just don't think they have the horses that they're going to be able to not use Mayer. So Mayer has been a guy that I've been adding, but I think his path could be more like a Chigakonkwo or a Frymouth, where you're going to have to sit on it, and then he sees more and more of a target share, like maybe halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think Austin Hooper is probably going to be more involved than people want to admit.
Some guy said I'm the Jocko of fantasy football, and some guy in the gym came up and told me I look like this Jocko guy. I wasn't aware of him, but
Jocko Willink, is that who that is?
yeah, I think it's like a Navy SEAL.
Dude, you do kind of look like him.
Well, there you go. I used to get on podcasts. I used to get a couple of other people. So this is a new one.
You got to shave the head though. You got to go completely shaven.
No, I keep it nice and clean. Keep it nice.
You're a lot cleaner than I am.
That's right. That's right. I'm not getting stopped in the airport, Billy. Billy, you got to watch out in Vegas airport.
Oh man.
All right, so we're coming up here on the back half of the draft. How many drafts tomorrow, Billy?
Tomorrow is Thursday. I think you're drafting tomorrow live, aren't you?
Tomorrow, it's all
your count. Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I didn't set the draft, but I'm going to do one of those. I think did you set the time?
No, because I'm not drafted. I thought you were drafting with somebody else. Are you drafting tomorrow?
I didn't know I was going to be tomorrow, but I am going to draft with somebody else.
Okay. Yeah. Worst case scenario, we skip a day. I am guest appearing on a podcast tomorrow. I got the kids back to school night tomorrow. So probably not drafting tomorrow, taking the day off, and then I'm going to be drafting all weekend.
So that's me. I've got a Friday 2 draft in New York City, one with Nelson Sousa, and then Saturday is 2 drafts, and then Sunday night is a draft. They're all blurring together at this point, Billy.
Yeah, I got 2 Friday, I got 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and then we got to cram in the rival leagues that we're doing, the listener leagues. So yes. we sent that out, dude. We have like 100+ people who want to join these things. Did you see the bottom line where I called everybody scrubs and now everyone's responding? It's hilarious. I love reading these things.
Back. Good.
Yeah, they're all talking
to Billy,
back.
Guys.
It's great.
So what are we coming up on here Q-wise, Billy?
We're kind of flexible here, but I like Rico here. I like taking Evan Hull here.
Evan Hull, let's hit it.
Okay, Ty Chandler's here as well.
Let's lock in Evan Hull and talk about the next one.
Okay, well let's leave him in there. We got 40 seconds to keep talking about the next one. Then we got 60 seconds. So let's push the time a little bit. You could also go
like in this particular draft. I think Dowdle will be there on the next go around. We don't need to take him here.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of late for Zay, and he was running in 2 wide receiver sets as well. Zay Jones.
I'm fine with that if you want to add Zay.
And then Zay gives us another receiver. Let's take Evan Hull for sure.
Yeah.
And now we got 60 seconds. So it's Evan Hull. It's either Zay Jones for me, and then we could be done at receiver.
I think Zay Jones. Let's be done at receiver here.
Okay, I like that. And then now we can pretty much paint it green and add our kicker and defense.
Yep.
Okay, I like that. That seems late for Zay.
It definitely seems late for Zay. And last year, Zay was wide receiver 25.
I don't think that's happening again, but
no, it's definitely not happening again. But they definitely like him in Jacksonville. He's going to have some big games, and it's contingent upside too, Billy. Like Calvin Ridley hasn't played in a long time. If he misses some time, Zay becomes very, very interesting. Christian Kirk misses time, Zay becomes interesting, and if Evan Ingram misses time, Zay becomes very interesting. So he's got a lot of pass.
So Zay Jones has been kind of, I guess we got him where he's been averaging of the last few days, but I mean, these this chart's all over the place. He's as high as round 9 in the last couple days, round 8 a couple times, and as low as round 19. Holy crap. Talk about variance. We talked about people going all over the place.
Get your guy season, Billy.
Jesus.
8th round Zay takes a lot of conviction.
Dude, same day he went in round 8 and same day he went in round 18. That's nuts.
It's super weird. People don't know how to value Zay, but we'll take him where we got him. I think that's nice.
So, I've been kind of out at Ridley at price. I mean, I've been moving him up the projections based upon news and camp, and he's been outperforming my expectations, at least for the start of camp and through camp, I should say, to start of the season. You're looking at the utilization, Zay's been actually outrunning Christian Kirk. Are you worried about Christian Kirk here in 2023? Do you think that these three are pretty locked in? Who's the odd man out? And do you really analyze snaps and utilizations that much in preseason?
I don't. I only would utilize them for younger players. I think with Christian Kirk, we know what he is. And Christian Kirk has had 2 straight seasons now. Because, Billy, you go back to his season in Arizona where he's giving you low-end wide receiver 2 production. And then last season gets the mega contract, clicks with Lawrence, has a really good year. Like, again, I'm not reaching for Christian Kirk, but I've taken Christian Kirk in like the 7th round, and I've liked that. I think more likely than not, Zay is a big play guy for them, and he'll have some spike weeks. He's probably a better and best ball guy with contingent upside and redraft. So Zay's probably the odd man out. I'm also curious to see if one X factor is they become a little more comfortable with Travis Etienne out of the backfield and Tank Bigsby out of the backfield, and they throw to running backs just a little bit more because we've seen that in Doug Peterson offenses in the past. And last year was like a de facto rookie year for Etienne. And Bigsby also projects as a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I wonder about that one as well. I like that offense a lot.
I do like the offense a lot too. Bigsby fumbling at the goal line didn't help. I don't think that's...
like, I don't want to have that like overwork my my process. Like one fumble in the preseason, I don't want to.
It's a real thing though, coaches. Like you fumble as a rookie in the goal line, like if you do that in New England, you're fucking benched for life.
That's right.
It's some coaches like you never come back from it. Peterson probably a little bit more forgiving, but that's never. It's always going to be in the back of the coach's head when you're at the goal line about somebody fumbling inside the red zone.
Tank is just a beast. And I think that, to take the next step as an offense, they want to work in a second back like Tank. So I don't know, Billy. If he does it in a big game, that's one thing. Preseason, it could be a learning experience. It didn't cost them anything. And Doug Peterson's won a lot of games in this league. I think he knows what he's got in that guy.
Peterson.
We have a question in the chat.
Show it.
Let's put it. Earl.
I'm in a 14-man PPR league. I landed Lamar, Chubb, not Chubbs, not two Chubbs, Brees, Ceedee, McLaurin, Kittle, and I got options of Tony, Addison, and Thielen at flex. What does everyone think? 14-teamer, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. I think that you've got the potential injury of McLaurin to deal with at the beginning of the year and also Brees Hall usage, but
I don't know what his starting roster requirements are though. Like, is it maybe it's a 3 receiver start? Maybe it's two receiver start. Like, not having the context makes this a tough question to answer, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. 14-teamer is wild. A guy like Thielen you would not really consider in other formats, but who knows how deep the benches are too, Billy. So good luck in your league, Earl. We hope you do well.
What's the deepest league, or I should say the most teams that you play in? Like, do you play in 14, 16 teamers? I
used to play in the NFFC Classic a lot when that was a big contest, and that was a 14-team or 20 rounds, and that was like my thing, and I had success there. And I had the number one in the combined standings one year, which is the highest, the combination of NFFC Classic plus the RotoWire Online Championship, and they combine them together, and I was the highest one that year, and used to pay a really nice prize for that. But the Classic is not as big anymore over there, and I kind of stopped playing it. And Billy, I'll tell you, I did a 30-round, 14-team best ball tournament over there with Mike Sanda puts together this invitational best ball.
Fuck's sakes, Theo. We're on FFPC podcast. Enough.
No. We're not gonna talk about them. Yeah, FFPC is our thing. But it was a 30-round 14-teamer that was crazy. By the end of that draft, Billy, it was like doing 3 of these in a row.
Do you do any crazy home league shit? Like,
no,
I have a 32-team league that I was in. I'm not in it now because I don't have the bandwidth for it. But it was a 32-team league. We started 11 on offense, 11 on defense. So it mirrored the NFL. Every team inside the league had an NFL team. So, like, I was the Bengals, and I performed like the Bengals. I was always, like, middle of the pack. I just could never get my defense right. But it's tough.
32 teams is wild, Billy.
It is wild. So I've been a couple 32-teamers. The most insane 32-teamer I've ever been in is no copies. A lot of 32-team leagues do copy leagues. So there's 2 players of every player in the league in these 32-team leagues. And the rule is you can't own both copies. So, like, you can't own two Justin Jeffersons. You can't own 2 Travis Kelce's, right? You cannot own both copies. That's the rule. The 132-team league I was in, where there's no copies, was just absolutely asinine because the starting roster requirements was there's no quarterback position. It was super flex position because if you lose a quarterback, you're SOL, right? Like, and that's pretty much real life as well. But if you don't own your own backup, like, good luck getting a quarterback in this league. And so we did a super flex spot instead of a quarterback spot. It was 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex spot. So you're talking about wide receiver 64 every week starting, not even counting flex. Running back 64 every single week starting without counting the flex spot. You start adding in this flex spots, and you're talking about wide receiver 80, 90, running back 80, 90. And sometimes there's just nobody to play. And so when you have 11 on defense as well, you have cornerbacks that have dual eligibility, wide receiver, running back. And sometimes those 2 tackles are the only points that you can find at a running back position. And so it creates a lot of, like, research, especially on the defensive front, finding the defensive players that you can maybe potentially put in a running back position or receiver position. But it was a lot of fun. But it's one of those leagues where if you have a bad draft, like, forget about it. You're done for like a year or 2.
Billy, that sounds really not so fun. To have to use wide receiver 60 and running back like 60. That does not sound fun to me.
That's bare minimum starting.
Yeah, I will skip that one. I will much prefer doing an FFPC 350 right over here with you. I think that sounds a little more doable.
Beaver wants you to take your shirt off, Theo.
Beaver boys asking people to take his shirts off, Not sure it's that kind of podcast, Beaver boys.
Oh, God. Depends who we get on the turn here, Theo.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Sean Tucker, starting to see him go off the board a lot earlier.
I don't want to mention names yet because there's still a guy I really like here. I may or may not have mentioned him last turn.
I don't know if we've been sniped by people in this. I don't think there's people listening in on the stream, Billy, like that are in the league. There's plenty of people watching, but I don't think the league mates are in here. Somebody usually would
I'm not taking my chances here. It's got 32 seconds. Because we could double tap this and lock in a team. Like an entire team.
Okay, Billy. Who would you like to have?
So Rico for sure.
Yes.
You could take Deuce as well, and you have all 3 backs. I don't know if I want to go that deep on this roster, but you're always going to have the running back.
It's not the worst idea. We're good enough to support it. The only problem is, Billy, you're going to have to hold 2 guys through waivers.
That's the problem, 100%.
So I think you pick a horse. And
I think the horse for me is Rico. Deuce Vaughn's literally an Oompa Loompa.
Well, I think that he's a very quick Oompa Loompa.
He is
very
quick.
shifty. I don't think Oompa Loompas usually move like that. So I would say Dowdle to me stands out because I think he would get the goal line work. But I do think Deuce Vaughn would get the receiving work. I think it would be more of a split this year, but Dowdle, again, we want that touchdown equity. And if Pollard missed time, I think Lamb would get peppered.
Okay,
So
the other guy I'm thinking here is Keontae Ingram, because behind James Conner, it's literally him, and I can't even say the other guy's name. Like, have you
mispronounced Keont Bay, because I've been taking Keontae Ingram over and over and over again. He's very enticing. Take him.
Okay,
So
they only kept 3 running backs, like, on the active roster.
Yeah, I think that Keontae is like for like with James Conner.
Pop quiz: who's the other running back they kept? I would put money on the fact that you don't know his name, because I didn't even know his name either.
We had this conversation on Sonic Truth, and I believe it's, and 1912 just said it in the chat. It's DeMarcado, who was the TCU guy, right?
That's right. Yeah,
we talked about him on Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast. Alan Soslowski, Matt, and I.
Oh, you cheated. So you knew the question. You knew the question was coming.
Well, it's not really cheating when we've talked about him on a previous podcast. But yes, DeMarcado.
Not gonna lie, when I read that, I was like, "Who the hell is this kid?"
Yeah, it's some of these backfield rooms get really weird.
Yeah.
Who's the back on Miami now?
So Miami kept a few backs. Of course, Miami kept they have
big back.
So they have Raheem Mostert, Wilson. They have A-Chain. They kept Salvin Ahmed. And then they kept Alec Ingold.
I thought there was one more player. Maybe it's a practice squad guy.
Probably practice squad. That's active roster.
Yeah.
Chris Brooks is what 1912 says.
Okay,
look at 1912, man. The deep stashes. Deep
1912 knows really. 1912 really knows his stuff. Friend of the GOAT District.
Should be in 32 team leaguers.
He would love it. He would start Amari DeMarcado, and he would have Chris Brooks on his taxi squad. This team has come around really nicely, Billy. We start out with the Dallas Cowboys stack. We get Ceedee Lamb and Tony Pollard. We take Keenan Allen and Darren Waller at the 3-4. Then we come back, running back, James Cook, David Montgomery. Then we get Courtland Sutton and Hollywood Brown to recover at wide receiver. Get our stack with Dak Prescott. We are a naked Dak team. Treylon Burks, Tyjae Spears. We go 2 Titans. Then we get Luke Musgrave, who has the same hometown as Billy Muzio, Bend, Oregon. We get Evan Hull, Zay Jones, Rico Dowdle, and Keont Bay Ingram.
The team to Dave. He picked us out. He said Team 12.
Shout out to Dave Hubbard, one of the best drafters in the entire country.
Really is.
He really is. So he's got a team. He split one main with Nelson Sousa. I did not see their build, but I don't know if they've drafted yet. But I think Nelson has 2, one with me and one with Dave. And maybe we'll squeeze one more in, because that team worked out really, really well. Running out of days here, Billy.
Dave and I have 3 mains in Vegas. We got the 10Ks in Vegas. We've done well in those. We have 100% playoff and payout success rate the last 3 years. Yeah.
Josh Peschke wants to make the bull case of Sutton this year. I will say last year, Josh, you were seeing him go in the 2nd and 3rd round of these high stakes drafts a lot. Certainly was not going lower than the 4th. And he this year lost weight. This year, Billy has talked about, Courtland Sutton all offseason, but now you have the coaching staff kind of raving about him. And now you've got the fact that Jerry Jeudy's going to not start out the year not playing. And who knows when he's going to be at full strength. So I think Sutton, this could be a big bounce back. It's funny, Billy, because the 3 guys that got steamed up big time last year were Courtland Sutton, Gabe Davis, and Elijah Moore. And certainly Sutton and Davis were steamed up big time. And I think now that the prices have adjusted, both those guys are definitely very enticing. And Elijah Moore is enticing. Why don't you share your thoughts on Courtland Sutton?
Yeah, so real quick, I mean, everybody was drafting him extremely high last year, but he was coming off an ACL injury. And like, we have to remember that ACL injuries can set players back, not just 1 year, but 2 years. And yes, the recovery time has been better with the advance in medicine. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to speak too much about it, but the data would suggest that it takes running backs in particular a lot more time to recover, but receivers also can need a little bit more time to recover as well. So everyone was drafting him in, off his 2019 season where he had his 1,100-yard campaign. That was his sophomore year inside the NFL. Tore his ACL, of course, in 2020, 2021 last year, played 17 games and disappointed. Finished wide receiver 51 points per game. But we saw what I think just in general, that offense struggled. And then again, struggles in 2022, where we think that he's going to come back and bounce back, fully recovered from that ACL. And this offense was just completely dysfunctional. I mean, Hackett couldn't hack it in Denver. Russell Wilson had his worst outing of his career. And so now you insert 2023 and we have a clean slate. We have a new system. We have a new coach, offensive-minded coach at that. We're expecting a bounce back year from Russell Wilson. Jerry Jeudy just got injured now. It's going to only help increase the target share earlier for Courtland Sutton and more chemistry in this offense. I wasn't even considering that when I was doing the projections early. It's now in consideration as we're later in the drafts. But the biggest thing for me is that Lombardi is the offensive coordinator here. Lombardi has shown a history with X receivers and offenses. Michael Thomas had a career year with Lombardi had a career year with Lombardi when they were in the Saints offense. Then you have Lombardi who goes over to the Chargers, and Mike Williams has a career year inside the X receiver role inside that offense. Now he's here with the Broncos, and guess who plays the X role? That's Courtland Sutton. So I think that Courtland Sutton is in line for a career year. He's my wide receiver 29 inside my rankings. I have been high on him all year. He's been inside my top 30 for quite some time. And I think that we could potentially see a career year. And so Sutton, the new offense, the bounce back year of Russell Wilson, the injury to Javonte Williams, we're talking about like this perfect storm of things kind of aligning for Courtland Sutton. And I think that the stars are going to align. We're going to see this bounce back campaign, not only from Sutton, but also Russell Wilson and overall this Broncos offense.
I love it. And, you've got me on him a couple months back, and I think this could be a nice bounce back season for him. So we'll see. And Billy, I think we'll know really quickly. I think he's got to get off to a really quick start. And I definitely want to see it in the usage where he's the number one read. And tomorrow we have Alfredo Brown and Dave Kluge from Football Guys joining us on First Class Fantasy at 3:30 at Eastern Time on our regular time. And Cecil Lammy, who covers the Broncos and does work for Football Guys, he loves Sutton. That's like his guy, saying that's like the focal point of the offense. That's the guy they're scheming for. So there's a lot of positive vibes. And I'm here for it because you also have the fact that a lot of drafters who get burned by somebody, you have the natural inclination not to jump back in. But again, if you paid $100 for something and now it's on sale for $45, your expectations of it are a little lower. And, we're there with these bounce back candidates. So never hold grudges. Every year is different.
Okay, we're about to be on the clock. I know we said we were done at receiver, but there's a receiver I like here.
Who would this be, Billy?
We don't think Hole 11 is listening in. So
no.
We could take Rondale Moore, which is one of the latest in the tournaments. We have Marquise Brown. If either get injured, one of those two is going to just, catapult up inside of the target share tree.
Done. I've been taking Rondale Moore a lot. Go for it.
Okay, so that's one. Now the question is, do we take a defense here and then take that was one of the defense I was considering. They have a really good week 1 schedule. Did New Orleans already
Well,
win too?
you also have Jacksonville getting the Indianapolis in week 1 if you're looking for a quick start. You also have New Orleans. Did New Orleans go?
New Orleans went like in round 15.
Okay.
Buffalo's there. Or we could take a running back and just take kicker and defense the last 2 rounds.
Let's double tap running back and make it more interesting in the final. I'll say also.
You mean one running back because we got Rondale?
Well, let's take Rondale and then actually Billy. Do we want to just take a defense or kicker to give us an option to take a free look guy?
That's what I was thinking. Like, that's why I was wondering if we want to take a defense now, so we do get the free look option. But we could get a free look at kicker because the kicker has been going free there as well. I'd say let's get the free look guy. Let's go defense here. So for me, it's either Jets, Buffalo, or New England.
Jets, Buffalo, or I'll go with New England on this one.
Okay. Locked. New England has a fairly tough week 1, but the rest of their schedule is manageable. They got the Jets week 2, Dallas week 3, New Orleans week 5, Vegas week 6. They can get past week 1. We're looking okay.
Yeah, and they're a very talented defense, a very versatile one, and that the team needs that to be defensive minded because I don't think they have the horses on offense.
Correct. So done at defense. So we need a kicker and then a potential free look. We could get 2 free looks here. I'll just go ahead and say
double. We could go double free look though as well with
and then pick up the kicker.
Yeah.
What? Oh, because you have to draft the kicker here. That's right. So yeah. That's the kicker I've been drafting everywhere is Riley Patterson because we get the free look, and then if he doesn't do anything, we just drop him on Sunday morning for another kicker.
Yeah, or we drop him on Friday or sometime so we don't feel inclined to have to do things early morning Sunday.
Well, you're gonna have to pick him up on Sunday.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I'll throw him in the queue. He's usually always free. We'll look at other kickers. Let's look at other free plays. So let's go ahead and just filter out to Detroit and Kansas City. There's Josh Reynolds. There's Marvin Jones. There's Khalif Raymond.
I like the Josh Reynolds. I think that he's just a fun one for this sort of free look.
Okay. And we did the Marvin Jones
guy. If you want to go Marvin Jones, you could do that too.
No, I'm all about like diversifying here because we took Marvin Jones with the last free look. So we could take Josh Reynolds on this one.
Let's do it. He'll be there. He's always there.
Yeah, they're always there. And so for those of you who are tuning in, don't know what the free look is. FFPC has the Thursday night games, but they also have drafts on Friday and Saturday. And so to balance the field out and give everybody a fair chance at starting all the games, you have an option of starting or sitting anybody who played inside of that Thursday night game with the benefit of already knowing the score. So let's just say, for instance, worst case scenario, I don't even want to speak it into existence, but I'm going to. We have Amon-Ra. Let's say we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown just gets shut down. Like they double team him all game, whatever the scenario is, but he puts up a dud. You can remove him from your roster and insert another player to give you that free look is what we call it, because you already know the fantasy score. Now, it's happened both ways, Theo. I don't know about you, but a player puts up 8 or 6 or 7 points, and you pull him out of your roster to put in another player with higher upside that's projected for 12 or 14 points, and they put up like a 5 or 6 burger. And so the free look has actually hurt me, but very rarely does that happen. Usually you have the wisdom to know that the player was shut down and you can put in another stud in his place.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another edge that you get, especially when you're a volume drafter. Try to get as many edges as possible.
Exactly.
And it makes it more fun, Billy.
Yep.
You're sitting there rooting for a Josh Reynolds to get loose for like a 75-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah, you're like, this guy's a sicko.
Yeah, we're like going nuts. We're the only people in the room excited about a Josh Reynolds touchdown.
They're like, who the hell are these guys?
You look at him and you say, hey, man, you didn't know about the free look, bro?
I'll never forget my first year at FFPC. Everyone remembers their first year at FFPC because you pay for it. You get your ass handed to you.
Yep.
And I'll never forget. I look at my lineup and I look at who I'm facing. I'm like, he cheated. He had that guy in his lineup. He pulled him out.
That's so funny.
Read the fine print in the rules, people. Always read it.
100%.
Your first year, did you read about $1 fab bids?
So I was okay my first year because I was always kind of like in the mix with a bunch of these FFPC people, so I kind of had an idea.
Yeah.
So I didn't get burned on like the rule stuff, but yeah, you definitely see people like very confused about certain things. How about in Dynasty leagues in FFPC, the victory points, trying to figure that out?
Yep. Victory points got me my first year.
A lot of people don't understand a lot of these things, so it's a great place to play, but knowing the rules is always a very important part of fantasy.
Man, there is some nuances sometimes to where it is in your best interest to lose the week to get in on points rather than record and get into the playoffs. I've seen multiple times where myself or maybe somebody else has purposely lost because I can't get in on record, but I can get in on points if I lose.
There are little edges though, Billy. It's always tough to try to do that, you know?
It's so awesome when someone like the first maybe year or two, because it takes a while to like learn though. Like that's a deep rule. Like people would never think that losing is going to get you into playoffs. And I remember I saw a guy, might have been like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, who was flipping out on Twitter talking about this rule and that it was next level stuff about seeing a player. And it was a very well-known high stakes player who, knew the rule inside and out and made it in based on points and not record. And so it's like, well, these are the things. Like I got down to like my first year, I got down to like, I think week 12 or 13. It was like week or two before the playoffs. And I'm like, man, why are all these people like not bidding on players? Like I can just do 0 fab bids on a bunch of players at the end of the season. Nope. You can make no roster moves on 0 fabs in FFPC. Yep.
All right, we're coming up to the very end. Josh Reynolds time.
Josh Reynolds and Riley Patterson, buddy.
Love it. A double free look. Are you guys doing a Dominator this weekend?
We do a Dominator every day.
Well, this weekend, though, are you doing your regular scheduled?
I mean, probably. I'm drafting like 7 straight days, so I guess.
Yeah, might as well.
I don't know if it's the regular time, but I'll be drafting on Sunday.
That's awesome.
I've been drafting.
We've got press coverage. I have Justin Boone, and I have Derek Brown, who's been with us on First Class Fantasy.
Shout out to
And then we have Alfredo Brown, no relation to Derek, and Dave Kluge. So that should be a fun one.
Yep. What are we talking about tomorrow? Did you send me a show sheet? I haven't even looked.
Flag plants. You just need a flag plant. You don't even need a show sheet. I'm asking the evergreen questions, and we'll talk about some of their favorite players at each position. This time of year, these shows are fun, Billy. You're either drafting or you're flag planning or making a bold prediction.
Just making sure we're not missing another potential running back here that could be a difference maker. Elijah Dotson made the lineup, but I like the free look. We could probably pick him up Sunday morning.
Yeah, I think we absolutely take the free look. It's the edge.
Speaking of the edge, our edge tool, Theo, for everybody who's listening, keep an eye out in the coming weeks. I can't give you a date yet, but I'm going to be giving away the edge tool, which is our sports betting tool, which is normally like $59 a month, I believe. Don't quote me on that price. I'm giving it away for 99% off, Theo.
When are you going to be making this big announcement, Billy?
Week 1.
Love it.
All right, let's take. You want to take the kicker first, or do we want to drive down the ADP of the kicker?
Drive down the ADP
of the kicker, or of Josh Reynolds?
Of the kicker.
Okay, so we'll take Josh Reynolds first. Drive in Riley Patterson's ADP into the ground with one pick later. And now we got not one, not two, but 3 free looks on Thursday Night Football.
You got to love it. You got to love it. It makes the game more fun. So to recap our team, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard. Then we come back with Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, James Cook, David Montgomery. Then we go back to the wide receiver well with Courtland Sutton and Hollywood Brown, Dak Prescott, Treylon Burks, Tyjae Spears, Luke Musgrave, Evan Hull, Zay Jones, Rico Dowdle, Keontae Ingram, Rondell Moore, giving us a combination of the Arizona wide receivers, the Patriots defense, Josh Reynolds, and Riley Patterson. Billy, this was a lot of fun tonight. I like this team. We definitely had some interesting things with this build, and I think we win this league.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. Before we go, take a quick look at the board. What other teams stand out to you? Like, give me maybe your top 2 teams that you really like. Have you looked at them at all?
No, I actually haven't. I can say that I like what Team 11 did with a number of their picks. I think Team 11 is probably the most dangerous one. And for what it's worth, I don't hate Team 3, but for me, I like Team 11 probably. How about you?
Yeah, 11 was going to be my go-to pick. I really like what they did. I love the start. They went explosive wide receivers. They took a high upside quarterback. They come back around and hit a bunch of high upside picks at running back with Dobbins, Pacheco, P. Ryan, Gainwell, A-Chain. This looks like a team that I would build from the 11 hole. So I really like what they did, actually.
And I like what they did in rounds 10, 11, and 12 to kind of make up for it with their build.
He sniped us a bit too.
P. Ryan, Gainwell, and A-Chain were all very, very strong picks for that build. So
love it.
Hat tip to Team 11. Good job. Shout out to 1912. We will not be drafting from the van down by the river.
What do you mean? I thought you were drafting from the van tonight. Look how lagged it is.
It is. It's apologies for the lags, guys. You won't see the lag tomorrow on First Class Fantasy. It'll be nice and crisp. And this was awesome. Thanks for watching, and stick with us all season long. We're going to be bringing it all year in First Class Fantasy. We've had a really, really good summer. We're going to have a great season.
See you in Vegas, folks.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you, allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.